right. Welcome everyone to Fall Break. We're coming to you live from nowhere as Greenbrier football puts Pearl in the rear view and looks ahead to the two final region matchups to close out the 2023 season. Whether you're curled up on the couch or curled up in the sand, thank you for checking in with us and the Friday night that was. Firepower was the name of the game, and though the Bobcats held Pearl Cone to their lowest offensive output of the season, it was still the Firebirds taking the win 35-0 over Greenbrier. The fourth straight shutout pitched by Pearl had at least one potential score that will forever be debated. Nevertheless, Pearl locks up their share of first place as the Cats have moved on to the seashore. Nolan Carson finished the night 8 of 20 passing for 119 yards and 30 yards on the ground. Javarius Flood finished the night with 3 grabs for 49 yards. Dalton Wilbur nabbed 4 balls for 58 yards, and Nate Castleman finished with 1 catch for 12. Carson Wood and Cameron Grizzard finished the night with 34 and 24 yards on the ground respectively. Flood also added another 42 yards worth of kick returns on the night. Pearl is also off this week as both teams refocus on the remainder of their seasons. The Bobcats are taking the road on the show to close out the 2023 season, with stops at Creekwood and Montgomery Central still to come. As we hit the spooky season, folks, be sure to hang out as we prepare to transition into basketball around here. Thanks for checking in with us. We'll see you next week in Dixon County. It's week 9 and we're taking a much-needed break. Greenbrier High School and all of Robertson County schools are on fall break, but the Tennessee high school football season and the landscape never rests. This week on the Tennessee Waltz, we're dancing all over the nation with shakeups at every level. There were a good bit of heavyweight matchups across the state this past Friday night, and as predicted, there were their share of upsets. Up first, Max Preps and their second national poll of the year, unchanged across the top, with Mater Day coming out of California at number 1, Bishop Gorman out of Las Vegas, Nevada, number 2, Chaminade Madonna out of Hollywood, Florida, number 3, ING Academy from Bradenton, Florida, number 4, and Buford out of Georgia, they're coming in at number 5. McAllen, the argued number 1 in the state of Tennessee, checks in at number 55 nationally this week. Checking in first with Main Street Preps and their MSP Top 25. Remember, this is the Mid-State regardless of classification. Stories from around the Mid-State: Montgomery Bell Academy knocked off the Lipscomb Mustangs. Brentwood took down Centennial. Father Ryan jumped up the rankings, but nobody from 15 below budged an inch. Your top 5 are October 9th. Pearl Cone, CPA, Brentwood, Oakland, Innsworth. All top 5 are laying out on the job this week with the exception of number 4, Oakland. They're taking on Coffee County. Marshall County sits just outside the top 25. The Tennessean in their Super 25 top 5 looks like this week: McAllen, Baylor, Alcoa, Oakland, and Pearl Cone. Powerhouse matchups coming up tonight. York Institute, they're at Friendship Christian. Portland's at Hendersonville. South Gibson is at Lexington. And the Upperman Bees are coming down 76 to take on the White House Blue Devils. It's the only, quote, in-county matchup this week. The Bees are on the road to visit a rebounding Blue Devil team. The last time out, you saw the Blue Devils upended by Station Camp in overtime. Upperman, they're fresh off a top 25 appearance in the Main Street poll. They are the Class 4A number 2, and like the Blue Devils, they're also coming off a bye week. The Bees, they're members of Region 4A. They're looking for another statement win in the class as they head into their final 2 Regions games of the year. Region 4 is chaotic. We've talked about this. DeKalb is sitting at 4-4 and 2-2 in the region. Stone Memorial is a perfect 6-0 and 4-2 in the region still to go for this Upperman team. The Blue Devils, they're rounding out their schedule. They still have undefeated number 1 Pearl Cone and number 5 in the region Creekwood still to go. If the playoffs started today, Pearl Cone, Marshall County, White House, Station Camp from Region 5, Hardin County, Jackson Northside, South Gibson, Lexington for Region 6. Chester County is still knocking on the door. The lone area team that sits on the bubble for us is those White House Blue Devils, sitting at 5-2 ahead of Friday's home game with Upperman. Despite their stellar record, the Blue Devils are still in jeopardy of missing the playoffs due to that overtime loss versus Station Camp. The Bison, who now own the tiebreaker over White House, are likely to jump the Blue Devils in the standings coming up. Station Camp will finish out their regular season with region games versus Creekwood, Montgomery Central, and Whites Creek, all 3 of those very winnable games for the Bison. Being serious for a minute, it's not easy competing in one of these tough regions, especially the toughest region in the Mid-State. Region 5-4A is loaded and features 2 powerhouses in Pearl Cone and Marshall County with 2 weeks remaining. Though not mathematically there's still tinfoil hat ways that Greenbrier could find themselves back in the playoff picture, just sitting on the outside right now. Greenbrier is going to close out their season with 2 winnable road games at Creekwood and Montgomery Central, but even wins in those 2 contests, Bobcats have slim hopes of making back-to-back playoff appearances. Around the region this Friday, the only one, Creekwood, they're at Station Camp. The playoffs start now for the Redhawks. They're sitting at 2-5 and 2-2 in the region. In Station Camp, 2-5, 2-2 in the region. The winner of this game tonight will have the inside track to at least 4th place and the final playoff spot in the region. Of course, Station Camp, they're still finishing up with Montgomery Central and White House. Creekwood still has the Bobcats and the White House Blue Devils to go. Again, everyone else is off this week. Working the polls this week in 6A, no change across the top. Bradley Central at number 1, Oakland, Brentwood, Germantown, and Mount Juliet. Class 5A, it's the same song, but it's the remix. Knoxville West will jump back up to number 1, with Henry County climbing up to number 2. Centennial Southwind, who's still undefeated, they're at number 4, and Nolensville at number 5. In 3A, it's Alcoa reigning atop still with no changes this week on down the rest of the way. Dyersburg, Meigs County, Gatlinburg-Pittman, and East Nashville. Class 2A saw York Institute continuing to climb that mountain, but after their scare last week, they're now tied at number 1 with Marion County. Huntington will sit at number 3. Loretto and Riverside will round out the top 5. East Robertson climbs up 1 spot to number 6. In 1A, same as it was a week ago, South Pitt, Dresden, Moore County, McKenzie, and the Memphis Academy of Science and Engineering rounding out your top 5. Division 2 will see Jackson Catholic, FRA, and McCallie taking their top honors. Now on to Class 4A. With your top 5, they go unchanged, but man, we start to see a lot of movement across the bottom. Number 1 this week, still Pearl Cone and the Firebirds after that shutout last week. Number 2, the Bees. We talked about them. Upperman, they're on the road at White House tonight. Number 3, Elizabethton. Number 4, Hardin County. Number 5, Greenville. Macon County will hop up 1 spot to number 6. Marshall County is steadily climbing as well to number 7. Haywood County dipped down to number 8 after a loss to Hardin County last Friday. And Gibbs, they'll crack the poll for the first time, sitting at 6-1. They're ranked number 9 this week. They've won 5 straight games and are marked for their region championship in Region 2 versus Anderson County next week. Rounding out at number 10 is Stone Memorial after their loss to 2A number 1 York last Friday night. Class 4A is still wide open, but some interesting facts were posted to Facebook on the Tennessee High School Football Facebook page, courtesy of David Allen Lacey. In a thread about who the true number 1 should be, the numbers aren't lying in his mind. Pearl may have the votes, but Elizabethton has laid their claim with quality wins as well. Elizabethton holds a 2-0 record against 6A teams, a 1-0 record against 5A teams. This is being compared to Pearl's 2-0 against Division II schools and 1-0 against independents. All this will not matter when playoff seeding comes, but for the long run, it's interesting to keep an eye on. We've made comments about this Pearl team last week. They are good. They are fast, but they aren't as disciplined as you would like to see a team of their caliber at this point in the season. David goes on to say, those numbers don't lie. These are your top 5 ranked 4A schools. Now consider this, in 2 weeks, there will be 2 very important games. Talking about us first, Pearl Cone and Marshall. They've got their region championship. The loser of that game will be in the Hardin County bracket and will have to beat them and win the rematch in the quarterfinals to make it to the semifinals. So Pearl Cone and Marshall County will end up canceling each other out before it's all said and done. Secondly, Elizabethton and Greenville, they'll play for the Region 1 championship. That winner will get home field advantage throughout the playoffs this year. Very important, especially if you've only had 3 home games at all season. Talking about Greenville, they had 2 canceled due to the weather. And the loser will probably end up playing the defending champ Anderson County in order to have a rematch to go to the semifinals in 2 weeks. That's when it all gets really real. Class 4A is still going to be a lot of fun as we head into the playoffs. Looking at the best defenses in Class 4A based on points allowed, number 1 overall Greenville, they've only given up 42. Pearl Cone has only given up 47. Elizabethton only 48. Upperman 56. Marshall County 72. Macon County 78. Loudon 88. Millington 96. Red Bank 98. Gibbs giving up 112 points, and rounding out that list, White House only giving up 115 points. So 115 versus 56 tonight on 76. Folks, we hope you have enjoyed your fall break, and thanks again for taking a few minutes to catch up with us. Wrapping up some fun stuff that's going on. Basketball season is just around the corner, and the Bobcats and the Lady Cats are fielding sponsorship opportunities for PA announcements and nationwide broadcast via the NFHS network. If you're interested, please reach out to Coach Jay, Coach Bree, or any Greenbrier basketball player, Media Day is less than a week away. We will be back with you next week in Charlotte, Tennessee as the Cats make the trip up to Creekwood. We're going to go build our own treehouse, and in the meantime, be safe on your travels wherever you may be. Be sure to follow us on all the socials at Voice of Cats TN. I'm Jim Sorrells, and we hope you can catch these Cats next week.